And in order to do that, we're going to head over again back to our documentation. Here, I just can close the index HTML, or I'm sorry, index Sass file, because we're not going to need it right now. And then within the components, I'm going to create a new folder. And when I say components, obviously this is going to be the source folder. And here we're going to create a new folder. And then we're going to write components. And then for each and every component that we're going to be creating, there's going to be a folder just instead of the simple file. And you'll see in a second why, because we're going to be attaching the Sass file for each and every component. So let's say here I'm going to write navbar.js, and then I'm sorry, yeah, that was actually navbar. Let me actually fix this. So the folder name is going to be navbar, and then within the navbar folder, we're going to have two files. One is going to be navbar.js, and then also within the same file or within the same folder, we're going to have the file name, which is going to be navbar. And here, maybe we can go with just a lowercase, and that's going to be the Sass file. So the extension again would be S, and then we have CSS. However, we also would need in the app.js to have the navbar.js file. So maybe before we do anything, let's just create as a functional component. And now we can always use the snippets just so we can type on save on a typing. And then let's say that this is going to be hello from navbar. So that's going to be our setup. And then within the app.js, we're going to be requesting this. So we're going to be importing that. And then we're going to say like this. I'm going to say import navbar, since we're doing the default export anyway. Doesn't matter. We can name it however we would like. And then we're going to say from. And then now we're going to be looking for the actual navbar file. Now that is going to be where? Well, /. So we have the relative path. Then we're looking in the components. Then within the components, we have the navbar folder. And then within the navbar folder, we have our navbar.js file. And now, obviously, I would like to render it. So instead of having the heading 1, I'm just going to actually remake our application a little bit. And you know what? We will going to use the React fragment. Remember, at some point, I told you that we can use the React fragment. So this is going to look something like this, where I'm going to write React fragment. And then within the React fragment, we're going to have our navbar. And again, the reason for the React fragment would be very simple, where I don't want to overpopulate this with unnecessary divs. So instead, we're just going to have the React fragment that's going to work as our parent container. Okay, so far so good. So we have our app.js setup, as well as we have our navbar.js, at least the basic setup. And now within the navbar.js, first probably let's look at what kind of structure we're going to have. Well, as I'm looking at it, I can see that I'm going to have the navbar. So we're going to have to work with HTML element by the name of nav. Quite simple. And then let's start writing here. Let's say nav. And you know what? Since there's going to be multiple lines for sure, we can just have the parentheses right away. Then we're going to have the nav. However, I'm going to give it right away a class name, since we would want to style it obviously later on anyway. So I'm going to say the class name is going to be navbar. And then what else we're going to have? Well, first I would like to have the image. And why I'm saying image, because this is going to be my logo. And we already know that the logo is going to be located in our source. So why don't we go ahead and look for this logo? And the way we work with images, at least one of the ways how we work with images in React, is by importing it. However, they do need to be in a source folder that way if you want to import them. And for this, we're going to say import. Then we need to come up with the name. So in my case, this is going to be logo. And then we're going to be importing from. And now we need to leave the navbar folder, components folder, and look for the logo SVG. How do we leave the folder? 2 dots. So this is going to leave the actual, I'm sorry, not the navbar, but components. Then we're going to be leaving the components. And then finally, we're going to be looking for our logo SVG. So since this is not a JavaScript file, we need to use the full file path or extension. So I'm going to say logo, and not logo, but logo SVG. Now, the moment we have our logo imported, we can also right away add it in the navbar. So let's say here again, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to say that this is going to be our nav. And within the nav, we're going to have 2 things. So there's going to be an image. So for this, I'm going to have the image. But for the source is where we're going to be using the logo. The logo we just imported. And let's say we're going to write city tours company, something like this. Now I'm going to save it, and you're not going to be able to see right now the first part of the logo because this is in fact white. That's the reason. So obviously we're only going to be able to see once we add the rest of the CSS. So don't worry, everything is fine. You're not hallucinating or anything like that. Everything is going to be working later on. Then let's also do the unordered list right away with the class of nav links. So that's going to be my unordered list. And then within the unordered list, we're going to have a few list items. So for the list item, there's going to be an href. So I'm going to say that right away, there's going to be a link. Now this link for now is just going to have the /. And later on, as we work with React Router, we're obviously understand how we can set it up differently. However, for now, we're just going to have a simple /, which, by the way, in React Router world is just going to mean a homepage, just as a side note. And then we also would like to add maybe a few classes here. So more specifically, one class, we're going to say nav link. That's going to be my class name. And then within the link, I'm just going to write that this is going to be my home. That would be my first link. I also would like to set it up right away to other links. So 1, 2, and then let's just rewrite what those links are going to be. I'm going to say about right here, as well as the last one is going to be tours. And for the tours, you know what? Why don't we add this class of active that we're going to use later on for styling? So this is going to look something like this. I also can right away maybe close the sidebar because we're not going to need it. We know that we're going to be working within these two files. And the reason why we created the folder is because this allows us to structure our application a little bit better. Because that way, obviously, all the CSS, meaning the Sass, but in general, CSS is going to be within the Navbar folder. That means that everything is going to be structured together, where we have our component, which is going to be the Navbar, and then we have the CSS that's going to be related for this component. And that way, if you ever want to go back and fix something, you don't have to jump through 10,000 files and look for something. You know, okay, so my navbar is going to be within the navbar folder, and then everything that's related to the navbar, whether the logic as well as how this is going to be displayed, is going to be in the same folder. And that would be the reasoning why people use this kind of structure.